Hello, I'm Simon. I'm the minister of Wallingford Baptist Church, and today I'm in Wallingford Castle Gardens, where Wallingford Castle, the remains of Wallingford Castle are. A castle that was built by William the Conqueror and that was finally destroyed at the end of the Civil War by Cromwell. And I come here to the Ramparts because I've been challenged as a minister by the book of Habbakuk, and I believe it speaks to us, to me, at this time. And there's this place in Habbakuk 2 where Habbakuk goes to his city Ramparts, and Habbakuk 2 verse 1 says, "I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what the Lord will say to me." And at this time, I believe God is calling people of God to pray, to seek God, as they look around them, as they look at their cities and towns, as they look at our country and see what's going on. They come to the ramparts, they come and look up, and they seek God's face. And I believe God is calling people to prayer, calling us to seek his face and to embrace him. The word Habbakuk simply means embrace or wrestle. And I believe God is calling a remnant to really embrace and seek him. And Habbakuk was part of a remnant. The righteous, he says, a small part within the community of God, were really wanting to seek face. They looked at the community of God and they saw how the culture of his time was infiltrating the church, and they wept over it, and they came before God to pray, not to judge, not to criticize, but to pray. And as they looked over the people of God, they saw they weren't loving one another, they weren't caring for one another. There was greed, there was exploitation, there was a desire for money. There was a drunkenness culture, and that was moving into sexual immorality in the people of God. And they were looking at the law and they weren't following it, and they were trying to justify the ways they were living. And there was a remnant who saw that, and they came to God. And as we look at our churches in the UK and in the world, I believe God is wanting to call a remnant to say, let's pray for our church. Let's not judge or criticize publicly, but let's pray to God for our churches. But Habakkuk also at his time, internationally, it was a very worrying time. The Babylonians were on the forefront, and they were going to come and invade the people of God. And there was a lot of fear. And at this time, as we look over our world, there's a lot of fear. We at the present, we are facing the coronavirus challenge, and there's a lot of fear. But wider than that, there's economic fears. There's fears of how we're relating to Europe and the world. And as we look over there, we don't have the answers. But again, like Habakkuk, we need to come to God and seek and pray for our towns and our cities and our villages and our country and our world. And I believe this challenge to us from Habakkuk is to be that remnant who will seek God. But Habakkuk is the only prophet that doesn't speak to the people but speaks to God, and I believe that's where we need to begin. And before we can speak to the church, before we can speak to our world, we need to come and embrace God and wrestle with God and hear his words for us. And that is the challenge from Habakkuk, and I hope you will join with me and you will take up this challenge and to stand on the ramparts of your towns, cities and villages, whether it's the literal ramparts, whether it's just a viewing point where you can gather, or whether it's in your homes, just seeking God and praying for your church and praying for your villages and towns as we seek to hear what God is doing. So the first message from the book of Habakkuk is, are you going to be part of that remnant? Are you going to seek God? And are you going to go to your ramparts, physically or literally or spiritually, and just pray to God? That's the challenge for me, and I hope you will join with me. And if you want to hear a little bit more about what God might be saying for the book of Habakkuk, join with me again on further ramblings from the ramparts as we look at what the book of Habakkuk might be saying to us at this time. A time of fear, but a time where the people of God need to have faith. Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones wrote his commentary on Habakkuk, and he entitled it From Fear to Faith. And as the people of God, we don't need to be afraid, but we need to have faith. And this is the challenge from the book of Habakkuk. So join with me. Begin by prayer. Begin by turning to God, embracing him and seeking his face. May God bless you.